Hi, we are Blake and Brittany, and 4.5 years ago, we moved our family from the Pacific Northwest to southern Ecuador.
Yes.
And we are so pleased to be able to share this little video with you, potentially a learning video. But we're not really pleased because it's stemming from
Our first significant medical event in Ecuador.
So our son broke his leg, and that's the downside to this video. But we are glad to have learned from the experience and be able to share it with you.
I don't know if I'd say I'm glad I get to share this with you, but this will be helpful as we have learned a lot actually.
Yeah.
About how the medical system works here and the options.
Thankfully, we didn't really have a whole lot of experience with the medical system up until a couple of weeks ago. That's a fantastic thing to be able to say. Like Blake said, we've learned a lot in just the last little bit. So on New Year's Day, our son was our 14-year-old. That should probably just say enough right there. But they were goofing off with some friends, and very unillustrious kind of landed wrong injury, and we thought it was not broken. We thought he had a sprained ankle, so I guess that's reflects poorly on us as parents because it took us a few days to actually get him seen by a medical professional as it was not getting better. Well, to be fair, he was not complaining about pain either. So
yeah, he wasn't complaining about pain, and I have an EMS background. And so I did my assessment, and in the moment, with the swelling and everything, it was kind of hard to tell. So we wrapped it up and we put it up and we said, okay, well, we'll monitor it and see, but we'll probably take you in. We said that for a couple of days. We'll probably take you in.
And then he'd say, "Oh, I think it's getting better."
Yeah, I think it's getting better.
Like, great.
Oh, cool. So again, we thought it was his ankle, that he just had a really bad sprain or something of that nature. Anyways,
it was that afternoon that Blake quickly determined that no, it definitely needed to be seen. So first step, since we live outside of a major city, we don't have like a bevy of healthcare options just right at hand. So for most things,
the closest clinic to us there's a little tiny hospital in the town of Vilcabamba.
And that's where we go for like kind of the first step for various
that's our first
ailments we've had.
Walk-in clinic style location. And so we took him down on a Sunday to get looked at, to have x-rays done. And the x-ray tech wasn't there because it was a Sunday. And so we had to wait and come back on
If it had been an emergency, we could have gone into Loja, but it wasn't an emergency.
If we thought it was an emergency, we would have gone straight to the hospital in Loja for sure. But since it had been a few days already, and he was not complaining.
No, I must have a really high pain tolerance because he was just kind of indifferent to it. So,
but anyways, we took him in the next day, got an X-ray done, and it was obvious. Like, okay, your tibia is fractured. It's like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it's actually broken.
It wasn't the ankle; it was the leg bone, I guess, leading down into the ankle,
just above his ankle.
So that was unfortunate. We did not feel great about ourselves as parents.
Yeah, and so here in Loja, there is a free hospital that the vast majority of people go to, right? Because it is free. And this clinic put us into the system, which I didn't truly understand until after a couple hours. We're sitting and just waiting after they had seen him, saw the x-rays, wrapped it up in a temporary cast. They had us waiting for a referral to see a specialist at that hospital. And we're like, okay, we'll wait for the referral. That sounds great. We need, we want to have it looked at deeper, right, by someone who's got more experience. But in order to do that, they make you wait for one of the very few ambulances that are available. And then they take you up in the ambulance, right, to the hospital.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, and if we have our own vehicle, but were Blake to have driven our child in your own car, it would have like essentially removed you right from the system. You would have had to go through the check-in and stuff all over again. So how the
system works is, we already checked in and in line essentially, right? And so if I had not taken him, if I had taken him in our own personal vehicle, we would have had to have checked into the ER at the hospital in Loja and started all over again.
So not the most efficient system.
Not the most efficient system, but again, they said it's a free hospital, and so
Blake was kind of learning this as he was going and kind of messaging me like, I guess we're waiting for an ambulance, but I don't want an ambulance, you know?
It was, I thought we were waiting for a referral, and then we could take that paperwork
and then
with
you
us.
became aware.
But then they told me that no, I had to wait for the ambulance to come and take him up there. And I didn't want to take an ambulance away from someone who actually needed it, because we didn't actually need it. It wasn't an emergency.
And we have a car.
We have a car, exactly. And so we stepped out and said, thank you very much for all of your help, etc. And during this time, while we were waiting for hours, Brittany had been communicating with some friends of ours here who actually knew an orthopedic surgeon, a trauma doctor in Loja at one of the private hospitals, who came very highly recommended. And so we made the decision at that point to wait and go the next day to take him in to be assessed by this specialist. The free hospital, again, it's free. I keep saying that, the free hospital. And so, but the issue with it is you get checked in, and if they have an available bed, you get stuck in an available bed in a room, usually with 2 or 3 or 4 other people, and then you just wait.
And it could be days and days until
we've had friends who waited,
proceed with treatment.
Yeah, but we have had friends who waited 4 days and friends who waited 11 days. And again, it's not terrible. Like, it's not a horror story. It's just a lot of waiting, right, that you have to do.
And since our child is a minor, like, I would have had to go and stay with him, and there aren't beds for accompanying adults. I probably would have brought a camping mat and a sleeping bag and just planned on trying to work from the hospital until, this is spoiler alert, but he needed surgery, and so we would have waited until the surgeon had an opening, which could have been 4 or 5 days, or it could have been 9 or 10 days. There's no way of knowing, and we have a bunch of kids still at home. It was not super convenient. It wasn't our ideal, although it would have been fine if that's how it had worked.
If that was our only option, that would have been our only option. But
we did. We went into, it's called Clínica San Agustín in Loja. It's known to be a really wonderful private hospital, which private, the distinction is, of course, that you pay either cash or insurance or both. And so we saw the surgeon that came highly recommended by some friends of ours. And we're glad in hindsight that we did that, because he saw something. They did new x-rays, which we paid for out of pocket, as opposed to the free x-rays done at the clinic in Vilca. And he saw something then there that he made him a little suspicious. They were much better quality, actually, the x-rays.
Significantly better quality. And this guy is an expert. Like, he is a very experienced surgeon and knows exactly what he's looking at. And immediately when he saw the break and kind of how the angle of it and where everything was headed, he said, I really want to look at this further, because I've got a lot of concerns.
We thought it was a really simple break. We went from a sprain to like a basic fracture, and we're like, okay, well, cool.
The first x-ray was like, oh, it's fractured. You can see it's fractured, but it didn't look bad at all to us. But then, so we get to the private hospital, and this hospital is one of the only hospitals in Loja that actually has an MRI machine. And so we did a CT scan, again, that we paid for in cash, which, again, all of these things that we paid for in cash at the most expensive hospital in Loja wasn't very much money at all. It kind of like what you'd pay on co-pays and stuff. But so we got the MRI done, and they did an amazing job with the MRI. And that was so clear that it was so much worse than we possibly imagined. And he was right. So the big deal was the break went down into his growth plate. And so the doctor is like, we have to operate on this. We have to correct it and do things in a very specific way, right, in order for him not to have trouble with his leg in the future, right? So the growth of the bone will continue normally. So it was kind of angsty few hours where we kind of decide what to do, right? And one of the kind of interesting things was the free hospital, unfortunately, doesn't have an MRI machine,
or it's broken. We've heard 2 things.
Yeah, and so we're not confident that they would have actually seen.
We suspect they probably would have just casted his leg based on the original X-rays, which would have been in the system, which I guess would have made it heal incorrectly. And so that was a little sobering for us because, he's a 14-year-old boy. He's going to grow more. He's active. We really wanted to get it, done correctly the first time so that he doesn't have issues, further on in his life. So
Yeah, yeah. And so we ended up scheduling surgery with the private hospital with the surgeon there, and we went in that morning. And they whisked him away right away, right, literally right as we walked in the door. They put him in a wheelchair and took him back.
Bye.
Yeah,
Have a
we'll
nice
see,
surgery.
we'll see you. And then we did the paperwork and everything. He took us up to the waiting room, and it went fairly quick. It was about maybe an hour, and then brought us up to recovery, which was incredibly nice.
Quiet and
Quiet and
peaceful.
peaceful.
Had these very plush blankets on the bed that I still think about. This is lovely and bright and colorful.
Yeah. So a wonderful, wonderful
Very
experience.
professional.
Very professional.
And I do want to say that, like, if we had chosen, especially after we had the CT scan done and we had the images, we could have gone, for the surgery at the public hospital. And I think they would have probably done a great job too, especially with the images. But I mean, we chose to stick with the specialist we'd already been working with at that point. But
because we knew who we'd have. That's the problem with the public hospital is you don't know who you're going to end up with.
And you don't know how long you'll be there.
And how long you'll be there.
But
yeah.
we did debate this. Like, this was, and it probably would have been totally fine. So, and in fact, in the future, we very well may end up there if there are other broken bones
at the public hospital. Yeah.
Especially if it's a more straightforward deal.
Yes, exactly. The fact that this one was complicated definitely swayed what we did. But no. So yeah, the private hospital was amazing, and they did an incredibly good job. We're very happy. All right. So everything was paid in cash, right, for all of the services and such. But all told, everything from the surgery, the time in the hospital, the surgeon's time, the anesthesiologist, all of that was just a fraction of the cost of what it would have been in the United States, and even with insurance. And so we are grateful that we were able to be. We were grateful that we were able to take him to the private hospital, and that it's an option for us here in Loja. So yeah, so we were just so grateful that we had such an incredibly high level of care at the private hospital, and for such an incredibly low cost in vast comparison to what it would have cost us in the United States.
We were looking at the itemized, list of everything, and it's just shocking, the differences, the disparity between, what really high level care costs in Ecuador versus, in the United States. And so, I mean, we had family help us out with this surgery here, but I can't imagine, having any sort of medical crisis in the United States. I can see how debilitating that is.
Well, that's when you get into medical debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of sobering, and we were, glad to be here and glad it happened here. Our first broken bone of the family. So he's got to go back and get some stitches out, and we've got a couple months in a cast ahead of him, but we're very optimistic that he will be playing tennis and soccer again soon, hiking the mountains. And so, it could have been a lot worse. And so all in all, a really good experience, and one that we learned a lot from. So.
Yes. So all that to say, if you end up needing medical care in Ecuador, it's not something to be afraid of.
No.
Right?
And
even if you have to go outside of Loja, right? If you have to go up to Cuenca, which Cuenca has a significantly wider array of options and specialists and things like that.
Well, and your dad, last time he was here, right? He had a dental emergency that he had dealt with in Loja, and is exceedingly happy with, the cost, which again, a fraction of what he would have paid in the United States, and outstanding quality.
Outstanding quality, and the tools they had. I'm still blown. Like
modern, and
yes, absolutely modern.
Still nightmare inducing at the dentist.
No one likes the dentist. But yes, so to dispel any of those like fears that even if you have to go to the public hospital, it's nothing like you see in the movies, right? Where you've just got like this horror scene in the hallways, and people are laying all over the place. I mean, public medicine is public medicine. That won't ever change. But the options here in Ecuador are fantastic. And we are very grateful.
Another thing that we didn't mention is we communicate directly with the surgeon
Yeah.
through WhatsApp. Like they're so accessible. Any questions, just send me a message. That's amazing. And that's how we scheduled things. That's how, follow-up questions. Being able to, just reach your surgeon just like that is pretty fantastic. So,
Yeah.
and no wait, no red tape. Really great experience, except for our son, but
Yeah.
he's doing just fine. So
Exactly. Great experience after having to deal with it all. But yeah, so yeah, thank you for kind of watching and sharing this little medical journey in our time here in Ecuador. And we hope we don't have to make another video like this, because let's try not to do that.
let's try not.
We do have 3 boys, and they are feral half the time. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Avid Family Abroad. Like and subscribe. And I said subscribe already. Subscribe. All right. Well, thank you so much. We will see you on the next one.